to another look back at some of the Kamen Rider Den-O Figuarts. Well, most of them. As you can see here, I do not have Kamen Rider Zeronos Vega Nega form, so yeah, that wasn't included in the job lot, but for the most part I think the figure is, it's just a recoloring of the base figure with slightly different accessories. So whatever my opinions are with this figure, it's mostly gonna apply with the Nega form as well. So two of these figures here I've already reviewed in the past. New Den-O and Zeronos right here, but here we have an extra one that I haven't reviewed yet, New Den-O Vega form. For those of you who've just joined us, I've already done two videos reviewing some of the other Kamen Rider Den-O figures. I've already done two videos reviewing all four of the base Kamen Rider Den-O forms, as well as both of his final forms, so you can check those videos out. You can check those videos out after you watch this one. And for the next few videos, I'm going to be taking a look at all of the Imagines, Dark Riders, as well as the Kamen Rider Den-O bike. So both of these figures were something I reviewed a long time ago, and so I'm taking a look at them again to see how well they fare with some of the newer Figuarts, and if they're still good to pick up today. As well as my first time taking a look at the figure form. And those of you who are interested in picking up a new Den-O figure, there is another version of this, which is the Amazon exclusive one. That was the original release. The proportions are worse than the figure we have here, as well as having less accessories. With this box here, we do get the extra Imagine weapons that are not included with the original release. Which is kind of silly because the original release was like an Amazon exclusive, whereas this one is a more regular release, but it has more accessories, as well as slightly altered and better proportions. So as always, don't forget to click the thumbs up button if you like what you see here, or if you dislike what you see here, click the thumbs down. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and click the little bell button to be notified of the other Den-O videos, as well as many other reviews I do on this channel. Figuarts, Figma, NECA, Hasbro, etc, etc. You can support this channel by watching my videos with ad block turned off, or head over to Patreon if you want to support it that way. Right, let's take a look at these figures. And we'll be comparing all these figures to the regular Den-O sword form Figuarts, but let's take a look at the accessories first. Starting with Zeronos, his hands are actually identical molds to the Den-O Rider hands, so those are the same, but he has sort of different poses for them. Aside from the fist already attached to the figure, he also has a pair of sword holding hands, or a pair of hands in the crossbow version holding hands, a pair of relaxed hands, a pair of card inserting or posing pointing hand, and a pair of hands to hold on to his little ticket cards. Here's his weapon in the sword mode. You can see it's painted quite nicely, and lots of molded details there. The gold and silver all look pretty good. The weapon in its crossbow mode, once again, all of the details are painted there quite nicely. And plastic itself feels very sturdy. He also comes with his weapon in a smaller form factor to attach to his belt, and alternative belt piece with different holes and bits for him to attach the weapon, so you can swap them out. He also comes with his own ticket, and it's got two different sides to it, green on one side and yellow on the other, and the molding here and the paint job on this is pretty excellent. Finally, he's got a bit to swap out on his belt where he ejects his card, where the belt does move and rotate in the show into a different position, and here you just swap that out to replicate the effect. So in terms of accessories, he does come with everything you need for his character, and that's pretty good. Moving over to New Den-O, aside from the fist already attached to the figure, he also comes with a pair of relaxed hands, a pair of sword holding hands, and a hand specifically to hold on to the axe, as well as a hand where he's clicking his fingers and saying, "Hey Teddy, come over here." His belt does have the regular weapon attachment, just like Kamen Rider Den-O Figuarts. However, none of those pieces have any painted details on them whatsoever. They're all done in just a flat black plastic. He also comes with interchangeable gold pieces without the weapons attached to his belt, just like the regular Den-O figures. Take a closer look at the regular sword form blade here, and you see that aside from the metallic red, which is faded, and the metallic silver on it, all of the other painted details are missing. There's even less details here compared to the regular sword form, as well as compared to the climax form Figuarts. All of the little metallic blue bits are all missing from this weapon, which is a bit of a bummer, to be honest. Here's the rod accessory, and the plastic itself is, there's a little bit of give to it, but it will snap if you try to bend it. There are little metal rings on the end of each side, as well as there connecting the hook. The axe piece is just a giant chunk of plastic. His face is right there, and the overall paint job on this is pretty good. And of course he has his main teddy sword weapon here. The mouth is not articulated, it is just a solid piece, but the overall look of it and paint job of it is also pretty decent. He comes with a swappable back piece that helps hold the sword to his back, and he has an identical train ticket just like the regular Den-O Figuarts. And finally, with figure form right here, I'm guessing all of these are unique modes because the figure itself is also using unique modes as well. So aside from the fist attached to his body, he also comes with a pair of weapon holding hands as well as a pair of spray open hands, so no relaxed hands for him. He also comes with belt attachments that you can actually unpeg the weapon bits from it. So instead of swappable belt parts, you can actually just remove these black little plastic bits from it. But as you can see here, all of these are just flat black colored and they're not painted at all compared to some of the other ones from the Den-O Figuarts. So again, that's like, they're kind of cheaping out there. And we have his version of the rod form blade, which for the most part it's the same as the regular one, but on the tip here there's an extra green blade attached to it. If I just zoom out a little bit, you can see that for the most part it is the same mold from the bottom there, but it is done in a shiny black instead of a matte black. Some of the painted details, the blue coloring is a flatter blue instead of metallic blue, whereas the regular one has a hole right there. This one is a solid piece and there's no hole there. And for the most part, all the painted details are included just like the regular release, just done in a slightly different color. Back over to the figures. The new Den-O Figuarts as well as Zeronos figures have a lot of reused parts from the regular Den-O figure. Their feet, lower legs, upper legs, and the joints to the stomach as well as the lower hip area are all the same. The lower arms and hands seem to be the same as regular Den-O as well, and they seem to have the same neck joint as well. For new Den-O figure form there, however, its feet, he uses die-cast feet, probably because of the more bulky upper torso. The lower legs seem to be the same and the knee pads seem to be the same as well. While Zeronos and new Den-O seem to be a bit taller, both figure form and sword form are on the shorter side, so I'm guessing they just have a longer torso area, maybe the heads are bigger, I'm not sure what's going on there. The other effect of the new Den-O form figure though is that it looks bulky and more muscular or chubby in a way compared to the other figures. Just looks kind of weird. Taking a closer look at Zeronos here first, the head is a little bit on the small side, so okay. But the overall sculpt of it is still pretty nice. The gold coloring and silver light coloring is a little bit on the faded side, but overall still sharp enough, no complaints there. The compound eye effect is very clear, very obvious, and looks pretty good. Moving down to the torso, the sculpted details is all pretty nice, and the shoulder pads that he has also pretty good as well. The overall coloring of the metallic green and the gold contrast very nicely with the silver and the black. The molded details on the belt are also pretty excellent, and the swap out piece for the different position of the belt is pretty cool. You don't need that to spin, it's a bit on the small side for that. And there is a slot right there for you to plug in his train ticket. Although pulling that back out afterwards is going to be a little bit of a hassle. The lower legs, just different colored version of the Den-O Figuarts, meaning he also suffers a little bit from clown shoe syndrome. They're a little bit on the big side, so I'm not a fan of that. However, it does make him very easy to stand and pose. Moving over to new Den-O, the eyes are definitely more on the faded side and the eye effect is harder to see. It is there, and I remember it being clearer before, but I can't remember if this one's one of the ones I try to repaint or whatever, but it's definitely hard to see right now. This was one of those figures where the red coloring just faded a lot with a lot of people's figures, even without any direct sunlight. It's also a slightly redesigned version of Den-O's climax form with the centerpiece, but of course with the added attachment of these crazy shoulder pads. The back of his head is a little bit on the dull side, and not a fan of it, but you know, from the front it looks good. And again, the rest of the body is pretty much just a remold of the regular Den-O figure, and he also suffers from clown shoe issues. But the overall coloring and the gold lining are pretty accurate, and the quality control is pretty decent on this figure. Finally, moving over to Vega form, and yeah, he's just got that whole stubby look to him because of the way he's been done. But anyway, the head itself has no transparent piece whatsoever. It's just a flat black shiny paint as well as some metallic coloring on the top there. The back of the head is a lot more glossy compared to the regular new Den-O figure release. Shoulder pads on these little hinges, but that's quite ugly because there's a huge cutout there, so that's not cool. But the front chest area is painted quite nicely. And the overall new Deno coloring on this is much better than the regular release. It's a lot more shiny and sharp, and gives it a nicer metallic look to it. He also uses the newer Figuarts joint, unlike the older ones, so which means that he should last a lot longer without becoming loose, and also hides the joint a little bit better. The green coloring on there on the belt is also pretty nice. Because it's combined with Dinap, all of his hands are going to be the same as the Dinap in margin as well, and they look more chunky and bulky. These figures are going to be very similar to regular Deno figures. You got the double neck joint. You can't look far too bad because of the slightly different armor pack, so forward, sideways, sideways. Double joint there, and of course its arm piece will get in the way, but overall it's still quite articulated. Oop. Rotation up here, double elbow joint, head, hand is on a peg and swivel. Body goes back, sideways, sideways, so quite a lot of rotation there. Belt is its own loose piece, that's great. Leg goes up, leg goes back, leg goes down, so this figure is still quite tight though, so that's pretty good. Double knee joint, foot goes forward, backwards, quite a lot backwards. Toe joint goes up and a little bit down. New Deno head go back, forward, sideways, sideways, full rotation there. This lower shoulder pad thing is on a little ball peg, I think, because it goes sideways as well as up and down, so that's pretty cool. A lot of rotation there. Hand goes up, full rotation there. Dumbbell joint, upper arm swivel, double elbow joint, hand is on a peg and swivel. Torso goes back, torso goes forward, sideways, sideways. Coloring seems to be going a little bit off in the stomach area, but that's okay because it's covered for the most part, I guess. Leg goes down, forward, back. Feels still very tight though, sideways. Full rotation here. Double knee joint, foot goes up, down, toe goes up. New Deno figure form, head goes back a little bit, forward, sideways, sideways, full rotation there. Shoulder pads go up, dumbbell joint, hand goes up, down, full rotation because the shoulder pad goes with it. Cool. Rotating joint there, double elbow joint, but yeah, it seems a little bit on the limited side though, and is on a peg and swivel. Torso goes a little bit back, a little bit sideways, a little bit sideways. Muscular stomach area hidden in there. The belt itself is attached to the underwear area, so that's a bit of a bummer. You can't take. I think it slides just a little bit, but it's for the most part stuck there. Leg goes forward, leg goes back, sideways, rotation there. Different coloring there for the joints, and that's a little bit distracting. Double knee joint, foot goes forward, backwards, sideways, and very much sideways. And toe goes up, toe goes not down. And this is just a soft rubbery cape that's just plugged onto there, so no articulation there, so it just sort of gets out the way if you need it to. Overall, with Zeronos here, he for the most part does hold up, I guess. He's definitely on the skinny side, and his legs definitely look a bit too long for my liking. He looks a little bit off, but the molding, sculpting, and the color control is still pretty decent. If there's a real bow version of him releasing, I have no doubt that he will look so much better though. So for its time, this figure is pretty good. The accessories are excellent for this figure, but he doesn't quite hold up to how the Figuarts are these days. New Deno here fares a little bit better due to his slightly different colors and slightly different armor, sort of making his proportions look a bit better than Zeronos. Like the more bulkier stuff does cover up or hide some of the older imperfections to the molding. And overall it still looks pretty good, but I would definitely welcome a real bone version of New Deno because he is one of my more favorite designs of a rider suit, and a new updated version just looks so much better. But what we have here is not bad. New Deno figure form though, it just looks ridiculous compared to the other Figuarts these days. He looks like a shorter person who's done too many weights, so he's like a muscular but short and a bit stumpy, and just doesn't quite look right. And even for back then, if you compare him to the regular New Deno figure, like the proportions are completely different. Like what the hell happened there? This is still meant to be like the same human body, and yet it looks so different. It's not right. For the figure on its own, it's still not that great. His accessories are a little bit on the lacking side. It's the base minimum, and some of the stuff is not painted, which is a little bit disappointing. seeing as this figure should be more of a like a special release, like a more limited one, Tamashii Web exclusive. He probably cost more back then than the regular figures, so it's definitely gonna be disappointing for some people to pick him up and go, hey, what's going on here? Why is his portion so much different than a regular figure? Why is he so lacking in stuff? You know, if he had an extra Tamashii stage act, some special effects part, it might fare a bit better, but the figure itself just doesn't look that good. The coloring is pretty good, but the overall proportions just make it look very stubby, and that's just not cool. Looks like he's from a different toy line, a smaller scale toy line, and that's no good. Here's the thing though, we'll probably never get an updated version of New Den-O figure form in Figuarts or whatever, so I don't know, either you combine these two figures, swap some parts over to make this look more taller and less silly looking, otherwise don't bother with the new Den-O figure form. Zeronos, we might be getting a remake of that, maybe, but if not, this figure is fun enough and looks good enough on the shelf, it's okay. New Den-O also looks okay on the shelf too, so these two figures I've reviewed in the past, these are the good ones, and this one that I'm taking a look for the first time is just, if you're not going to customize it at all, or if you're not going to find it for a lower or cheaper price, probably give that one a skip. Subscribe, suggest, and comment below, and take care, have a nice day. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye now.